Today, I'm going to show you what could very well be the hardest paint job in scale modeling. You've probably seen a couple of videos out there that show how easy it is. Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Getting that really smooth, reflective, metal-like look ain't so easy. But I'm going to show you how you can do it. Once you have that perfect paint job, you're not done yet. There are other challenges that you're going to run into. The clear coat that you apply to, kind of protect it because they can be pretty sensitive, but you don't want it to just take away all that metallic sheen. So I'm going to show you some things with that. Also, how do you put on insignia? Putting on decals? What do you do there? Because you don't want to ruin it. And also weathering. How do you do some weathering without also killing off your sheen? But before we get started in the technique, let's have a little bit of discussion about what is accurate. Well, one, do what you want. It's a hobby. The aircraft I'm doing, on the box art looks shiny, but in real life, I don't think they really buff these. But I'm doing it to show I can do it. My guess is what actually is accurate for the time. Something like this, where they didn't paint it, they just put it as is from the factory. Or something that's dirty like this. As with anything, there's got to be exceptions. There's got to be somebody that squadron leader or something where, they took some extra time to buff it. I don't know. If anybody knows a little bit more about some situations, put in the comment. But keep in mind, maybe you're doing it as a museum piece. Those things are very reflective. And of course, when we talk about the F-86 and the F-104, other Century jets, yeah, very shiny. Now, if you think of all this as being completely inaccurate, go ahead, put in the comments. If anything, it's going to just help my reach statistics. So go for it. I dare you. One of my next projects, I'm going to be working on the Edouard P40N, and I'm going to try to get that balance where we're looking for some oxidation, but not really look like a toy. Now, if you want that mirror shine, you gotta be able to have the base be a mirror shine. As you can see here, there's different layers of gloss, and some people will go to this level, call it good, and then put on their paint. Well, with that, it's not going to be really smooth enough to where we need it. So we're going to look at the one on the right where it is polished to a level where you can see your face in it pretty much. To start out, we're going to use a Mr. Surfacer 1500 to get a really nice smooth base layer. So what color and surface does this actually need to be? Doesn't necessarily matter. You could do it a bunch of different ways. Depending on the color, you're going to have a little bit of a different color in the end because that aluminum layer is going to be very thin. And so some of that can kind of pop through. So some have done gray, some have done white, some very much polished the plastic. Now you could do that, not a problem. Now some people are going to actually polish the primer. Do you need to do this? Kind of just depends. Probably not, but probably does help in here. Just kind of give it a little bit of a 1500 grit and just kind of make sure that I don't have any glaring errors on there before I put on a gloss. Now, as far as gloss, I like Tamiya's LP line. A lot of people love getting into Mr. Hobby GX2. Also, getting into MRP gloss has been really, really good, but I'm just using Tamiya in this one. Now, to be honest, if you really want to know how to do this gloss layer the best, talk to the car guys. They get a super smooth mirror shine on their cars, and that's kind of what we're looking for. Now, at this point, first layer doesn't look super great, but we're going to work it. So once that paint is pretty good and cured, maybe about 24 hours, we're going to come back and we're going to sand it. So at this point, it's gonna look quite a bit rough when we're done, but it needs to be a smooth rough. So when you sand it, there shouldn't be any, pits and peaks with the paint. Everything is all nice one layer. Make sure you get into little nooks and crannies and make sure that everything is pretty well uniform. If you go lazy at this step, well, it's gonna come back and bite you in the end. Now that we've got a smooth layer, we're gonna add some more paint onto it. So just going back, and this time it's a little bit more thin than what I had before. Also, one other little trick that you can do after you're done applying is you can grab just straight up Mr. Color leveling thinner as you're trying to clean up your brush, technically even, and just lay it on, and it will make things nice and level. All right, now we're getting somewhere. And you guessed it, more sanding. So just coming back with the 1500 grit, and this time employing more of a wet sanding, and we're just trying to smooth out those paint layers that we've put on. Now we're going to switch to 2500 grit, and these are sanding sponges from Infinity out of South Korea. They are great. Another one that is really good are the God Hand ones that I got from MRS. Those ones can go all the way up to 10,000 grit. Now for something a little magical. This Infinity sanding sponge in 4,000 grit is really good for polishing. And we're going to be almost ready with just this 4,000 grit. It's pretty dang cool. Now looking back, I don't know why, but I added another layer of paint. So now we're switching over to the God Hand sanding sponges. This time we're starting with the 1000 grit and just getting into all the nooks and crannies, making sure it's all nice and smooth again. Now we're just going to repeat the process, go to the 2000 grit, then 4000, then 6000, then 8000, then 10,000. Now for the polishing compounds. So I'm just going to use the 3-step Tamiya, but there's some other stuff like Novus out there that do the same thing. So we're going to start with our kind of coarse grit. And if you have a steady hand and a good enough Dremel tool where you can dial down the RPMs, you can actually use a Dremel tool with a cotton rotary or a sponge, and it can do wonders on this process. Now I'll switch over to the fine compound. I'm not going to use the finish because I just don't really think it's necessary for this step. And here's the end result for this test. I think it's really cool. It's got a little bit of grain to it from some of my happy accidents, you could say, but looks good. Now, as you can see, I've tested them all. I've gone through a bunch. There's over 100 spoons here. And when it comes down to my favorites, I'm going to go with either AK Extreme Polished Aluminum or getting into MIG Ammo High Shine Plus Aluminum. Now, continuing on with my test piece, on the vertical stabilizer, I have the AK Extreme, and then on the tail itself, we're getting into the MIG A stand. When you're using either of these paints, think very small layers. You don't want to have too much pressure, otherwise it kind of goes easily into a spider web, and then you got to do a little bit of cleanup on it. Also, if you put down too much, then it's going to also look a little bit fuzzy on some of it and kind of matte. It's not the best. After you're done, if you want to do a little bit of buffing, either with just a lens cloth like here, or you could get the buffing wheel on a really low RPM, something like that, and then just continue with the next layer. Now for the deep question, do we add a clear coat on top of this? Well, it kind of depends. If you can get away without doing it, it will be better. But it's going to be pretty fragile, and if we want to do anything on top of it, it's going to need it. So I tried using this water mixable oil paint, and I was expecting, it should be pretty durable. They say from AK that you can, do your weathering right on it. Well, no, this was just enough abrasive that it took the paint away. Now, if you're doing just pin washes, that's a different story. That can work, but the way I did it just made it a failure. So that's where we come to probably being advised to add a clear coat. If you do it right, you're going to have minimal loss to the reflectivity, the actual metallic sheen to it. So I'll show you how to do that. Now we come to the point where I forgot to record this part of the process, so I'm just going to be using some older footage that's also blurry, but it's pretty straightforward. The trick with this is not using it straight out of the bottle, but also just adding a little bit of airbrush thinner. And when you're adding it, you want to make it go on like you can't tell that it's actually going on. It should be very transparent as you're laying it down, and then it's going to look good. The problem that we run into if you're usually just putting it straight in and not using the right settings is it's not going to be smooth, and that's going to disperse all of the, incoming light, and it's not going to be shiny as it was. So that's the key, is making sure that it has a little bit of thinner to it. So let's go back to the spoons on this. This is AK Extreme, and then you can see there's kind of a masking line in the middle, and that's where I have it taped. Now, can you tell which side has the clear coat on it? It's very hard to tell. That is thinned Pro Acryl. Now, I did do some experimenting with some lacquers. This is AK Real Colors on top, and you can get it to work right, but it's very tricky. You have to put on just kind of a dusting coat and then get progressively thinner and wetter. If you do it too fast and get too wet too fast, it's going to eat the paint, and it's going to look horrible. And this is Aqua Gloss. This is formerly from All-Clad, but Ammo is now distributing basically the same thing, and it's really good. Just like with any of the others, make sure you're thinning it and don't just spray right out of the bottle. And this is what happens when you put it straight out of the bottle. Yeah, you can see a definite difference between the glossed and unglossed. I also tried the Vallejo metal varnish, and it's promising, but didn't quite fine tune it. Found the other stuff to work either good or better. So which one? Really, I found no difference between them. AK Gauzy, getting an all clad pro acryl gloss varnish, even the Vallejo metal varnish. I didn't use it as much, but all of them should be pretty much the same. Just make sure that you are going in and making it nice and smooth, lower pressure, but very thin, wet coats, and go from there. Also, and this is very important, make sure that you give it at least 24 hours for it to, fully harden. Otherwise, you will lift up that clear coat and you'll have issues. You may still get a little bit after 24 hours, but it's a lot smaller. Ask me how I know. Now we run into markings. As you can see here, no clear coat. The decal film is very easy to see. If you apply a clear coat over that or below, it's going to help blend that in. There's some other things you can do, like you can trim the outline of each of the decals. You can get Edouard decals where you can rub the carrier film off or paint your own markings. Get a stencil type of thing. The one man army masks, those kind of things. There is also dry transfers, but I haven't really dealt with them, and they seem very finicky to use. So this is where coming to a little bit of a word of warning. Always test when you're doing something new. Don't just assume it'll work. So I just did this water mixable oil paints right onto the metal. And if I just kept it just like a pin wash and probably like use some water to just kind of spray it away, I could probably get away with it. However, I decided to wipe it off and it was just enough grit, I'm assuming, to take the paint away. So this means there is some promise to it, but you just have to be smarter than me with the application on it and don't do just a big sludge wash and wipe it off with something. And here comes the benefit of the clear coat. If you put that clear coat on it, it's pretty impervious to just about anything you want to do. So let's summarize while we've got the KI 115 getting painted in the background. You need to start off with a super glossy finish. Whatever color it is, that's a different subject, but it has to be super shiny. It's only going to be as reflective as the surface that paint is going on. So if you want to see yourself in it, you have to see yourself in that paint when you apply it. So I would talk to the car guys on that if you really want to get a bunch of different tips. But polishing is a big thing with it, using all the different grit sandpaper and also using Mr. Color leveling thinner on top to kind of help it level that paint. All of that is going to get you down to a very reflective finish. And if you want to, you can use a polishing wheel, but keep in mind I've done it before. It's great if you can control it. If you can't, it'll fling parts everywhere and it's not fun. Most reflective paints for aluminum, Ammo Ace Stand High Shine Plus or Airframe Aluminum, great stuff. AK Extreme Metal Polished Aluminum is a great one. All Clad Airframe Aluminum, great. Now, AK most durable out of those, then A Stand, then the old goat all clad. In the end, it's hard to not need a clear acrylic coat on there. You can use some other stuff, but AK Gauzy, Aqua Gloss, things like that are going to be really good at providing a clear finish. Just make sure that it's thinned properly. You don't want it to be a rough surface because then that just is going to kill your shine. When doing markings, you could do a couple of different things. Trimming the decals can work well. Using decals where you can remove the carrier film works great. Or just paint on your markings for everything. And when it comes to weathering, there's some less aggressive stuff out there, like what I was doing with this water mixable oil wash. But all of them are going to bring up some problems. So you got to be very careful with everything. Maybe pin wash, maybe have some kind of gentle removing method, or just have a gloss varnish, and that will protect that paint from whatever you're going to do on top. So now that I've finished this bird, I've got some reflections with this picture of reflections. It seems to be a little bit dull than it started out with, but it looks good, I think. I think it looks pretty realistic and everything, but it's not what I initially aimed to get towards. So I might do some different playing around with it, trying with the lacquer paints and, putting on dusting layers like some people are suggesting. And maybe that'll create a better overall lacquer clear coat layer. And with that, it's less likely to dull over time, is my thought. So I might try that next, but it also could be what I did with the P47 that some people have called out, is all that weathering on it, of course, is going to make it look weathered and not shiny. So just don't do any of the washes, don't do any of the oils, and it will keep its shine. Also, some of the additional stuff that I did, some weathering, some tweaking, kind of made things worse. I ripped off some of the clear coat and then had to go back with it. So I definitely want something a little more durable than the acrylic. So that's something I'll be kind of testing. But as far as it comes with using these high shine aluminum chrome type paints, this is kind of my point where I'm at now. Might change 100% of all of this in weeks of time, but I'll make another video of it. There's a few things I want to check, but in the end, this is how I made this KI or Key 115. And so let me know what you think and what kind of questions you have on top of that, and I'll make a follow-up as I kind of pursue this even further. Thanks for watching to the end, and hopefully this inspires you on your next project or to finish one of those Shelf of Doom projects.